Okay, so today I'm going to talk about making pastry. It's really easy. There is no magic to it, there's no mystery to it. And today I'm just showing you how to make a basic short crust. You can use sweet pastry, you can make it sweet, or if you're doing a savoury dish, you can make it more savoury and just leave the sugar out. It is so simple. So what I've got in my bowl is I've got 8 ounces, I do it in ounces, I'm old school, 8 ounces of plain flour. I'm going to use my hands with this. I do it in a food processor, but today I'm going to show you, because not everybody's got a food processor, I'm going to show you using my hands. Take all your jewellery off is the first thing I will say, and make sure your hands are super clean. So I've weighed out my flour, my plain flour, and with that I put a pinch of salt. Okay, now a pinch is where you cup your hands and it just fills that tiny little well in the centre of your hand, and that is a pinch. Okay, so we just pop that in. Then I've got my fat. Now when we're making pastry, the rule is half fat to flour, and that's all you need to know, half fat to flour. If you remember that, you can make basic short crust pastry. So I've got 8 ounces of flour, so obviously half fat to flour, I need 4 ounces of fat. Now for my pastry that I'm doing today, I've got 2 ounces of lard and 2 ounces of butter. If you want to make a richer pastry, if you like a rich pastry, you can use all butter. There are no rules. As long as you do the half fat flour, you'll be absolutely fine. I believe that the lard makes it a little bit shorter, a little bit more crumbly. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cube it. By cutting it up and cubing it, I don't know, but I think it makes it easier to rub it in, which is what we're going to do. So, block margarine, something like Stork or a supermarket's own, is absolutely fine for this. As I say, you can use all butter for this as well. Okay, so that's that done. So I'm going to pop it down there. So I've got my fat into my flour. Okay, so now I'm going to use the rubbing in method. Very simple. Take your hands and you literally rub the fat into the flour using your fingertips. As I say, it works, I think anyway, it works best with a firm block margarine or butter. If you use the soft ones, you just end up with a mess on your fingers. The secret to a good pastry is keeping everything cool. So they always say that a good pastry chef has cold hands. I'm not sure whether that's true or not, but so we're just going to keep going and rub it in. Okay, cut that. Okay, so I've finished rubbing the fat into the flour. This takes 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how proficient you are. Doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as you get the end result. And it should look like fine breadcrumbs, like this. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm making jam tarts for this demo. So I've decided, I don't always, but I've decided to make a slightly sweet pastry. So what I'm doing, because I don't like an awful lot of sugar, so what I'm doing is putting a teaspoon of caster sugar in, and I'm just going to literally turn that through. Okay, so we're ready, we're good to go. Now then, we need some moisture with this to bind it together. I've got cold water. You remember what I said about everything being cold? I've got some cold water here. I've run the tap a long time, so it's super cold. And I'm just going to add 2 dessert spoons. With pastry, you add a little at a time, because you can always add, but you can't take away. If you add too much, you'll just end up with a sloppy mess, then you'll put more flour in, and then you just won't end up with pastry. So it is a little at a time. And bear in mind that it does take a little while to come together. Some people use a knife, some people use their hands, entirely up to you. I use a knife, and at the end I test it with my hands to see if it's ready to come together. As you can see, that's starting to make balls, but it's not actually. So I'm going to put 2 more in. If you haven't got really cold water, what you can do is pop some water in the fridge just while you're rubbing your fat in, and then you know it's really cold. So I'm going to test that to see if it's ready to come together. And as you can see, we're not far off at all. But I think another spoonful and we'll be about there. And it is literally just adding a little bit at a time. Very tempted to pour it all in at once, but please don't do that. See, we'll end up with something else. Okay, you can see it's coming together now to make the dough. And my aim is to it leaves the bowl clean. There we go, clean bowl. Okay, so now you can use a rolling board for this if you've got one. I'm actually going to do it on my surface. Any flour will do, just to roll it out. Spread it out, just to make sure it doesn't stick, basically. Move that, give us a little bit more on. When you're doing your worktop, always do your rolling pin as well, because obviously you don't want it to stick to that. Okay, so pop your pastry out. Some people at this stage like to wrap their pastry in cling film and pop it in the fridge, again keeping it cold. Demo purposes today, I'm not going to do that. If you've got a super hot kitchen, that would be a really good thing to do, but my kitchen's really cold today. Okay, so I'm just going to roll it out, and I'm going to give it a quarter of a turn every time I roll it out. Okay, so we're just rolling gently, we're not pushing down, we're just literally applying a little bit of pressure and just pushing it out. And I want it to be approximately 1 to 2 centimetres thick for jam tarts. Once you've made it once or twice, you will just know when it looks right. As I say, it's no mystery to it. It's not magic. It is very, very super simple and super cheap as well. You know, it costs pence to make this. Okay, now I've done 8 ounces there. That would quite happily fill a flan tin. Okay, so I've got a cutter. Plain one side, fluted the other. I think I'm going to be posh today. I'm going to use a fluted. So, push, twist, it falls out. You can see there, I'll do it with that hand, how thick my pastry is. And then, very simple, pop it gently in your tin. I find that the low ones, not the deep ones, the shallow ones,